Michelle, we're always going to have issues that we're not going to do it right. But it's amazing to me. I've walked in here, and to hear some of our critics over the last few weeks, you would think that the VA was perfect before we got here. I mean, yeah.
I'm so glad you put it in those terms because, now everything's suddenly, it was perfect before Trump. USAID was virtuous and perfect. The IRS is perfect the way it is. The federal government is perfect with all of its bloat. Don't touch a thing. How could you possibly fire a federal worker? People get fired in every industry every single day. He is now Secretary Douglas Collins, the Honorable Douglas A. Collins, named the 12th Secretary of the VA by current President Donald Trump. You may have seen Doug Collins on this show before. He used to have a podcast on this same network, and we did each other's shows quite often, and he's become a friend. But now he's become a voice for the veterans, and he is a passionate voice and an honest voice and a transparent voice. He is super well educated. He's also served as an Air Force chaplain. He's a veteran. He's a lawyer. He was in Congress. The guy's been around. But the thing that I love about Doug Collins is he is just authentically who he is. He's going to say what he believes. And he doesn't like the politics of all of this. He likes the service. And you'll hear him refer in this episode to my veterans, my veterans. And that's because he wants to stand up for his veterans, making sure they get the very, very best. He's interesting. He's got a master's degree in divinity from New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. Just a really fascinating guy. And like I said, a friend. But we're going to talk to him and I'm going to press him on a couple things. So before we lead you back into this interview, let me just say this. Please subscribe. Download wherever you get your podcast and just hit that subscribe button at Rumble, at YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them. We'd love to have you on board so you never miss these great episodes like this one. Doug Collins, who is out there telling it like it is, and he's going to answer questions you may have as well. He is our guest next. Secretary Collins, it's good to see you. I have to call you by that honorific now instead of just my pal Doug. How are you?
I'm good. It still's Doug. No, this is so good to see you, Michelle. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so it's good.
Congratulations on the post. Obviously, this administration is under the same kind of scrutiny, maybe a tad different this go round than the first Trump term. But a lot of what the criticism is surrounds cost cutting and Doge and Elon Musk and all the rest. And I just want to get your perspective on what it feels like to be on the receiving end of all of that skepticism.
Well, it's just amazing to me, Michelle. And I think the interesting part for me, being in Congress for 8 years and being up in some of the biggest battles of the first administration, especially impeachment, the Russia hoax, the Mueller investigation. I got used to the left, not giving rational arguments a lot of times, but it's been really frustrating here that the VA, because the VA is a very large organization. It serves a very special group of people. And that's our mandate, is to serve veterans. It's not to do anything else. But what's been really interesting for me is that over the last 10 years, GAO has had us on the high risk list for the susceptibility to fraud, waste, and abuse, and also patient care and quality.
And let's remind people that GAO is the Government Accountability Office.
Yeah. Who does these reports? So it's internal kind of thing if you look at it from an outside government. But yet for 10 years, we've done, frankly, Congress has done nothing different. And the VA has really not had a whole lot of change except add a lot of money and a lot of people. So, we're coming at this saying, if I'm wanting to make real change, if I'm wanting to try and help the veteran, help me help the veteran, to see the pushback from that, it really just shows me that, frankly, legacy media, union bosses, and congressional leadership really are saying, we don't want it to change. We like to just be able to gripe about it.
I think, I saw people, Democratic operatives, whatever you want to call them, strategists, are saying, people didn't want the status quo. So we voted in Trump, and now they want to keep the status quo. The people on the other side want that status quo that the rest of us were saying we don't want. Right. And so, obviously you've had to go take some cuts and then reverse some of those cuts. What is that procedure like? How do you decide what a program is worth, the scalpel?
Yeah, well, I think what you got really, Michelle, is just two sort of separate situations. We got the issues we've had, people who took the early retirement, the fork and road dirt, whatever you want to call it, that have decided to take that alternate and get off. We had the probationary firings that happened on the ones who have been here less than a year, and we looked at our overall performance and how we're dealing with that. But again, we have exceptions into the personnel side. So if you were in we exempted. Here's a staggering thought for you. We exempted over 300,000 positions. Most businesses can't even imagine having 300,000 people. I've got well over 400,000, 450,000, but we exempted 300,000 people who actually, help our access frontline care for our veterans in our hospitals and our clinics, but also those who are doing the disability claims and everything else. So if you did get caught in that probationary side and you did get a fire, then if you for some reason thought you were a mission critical or you were in a role that was forward facing, your supervisor and everybody along the chain could have come up and said, we need an exemption for this person. And we had several of those that came up that we granted. Because sometimes a job title may be not descriptive of what's actually being done. So we wanted to make sure that, again, our top priority was veterans health care and veterans benefits were still being processed in the way that they could. Contracts a little bit different. We've only done, by the way, let me go back to one quick thing. That 2,400 people that were laid off from probationary, that's 1/2 of 1% of the workforce. 1/2 of 1% of the workforce.
And for some people, it's just like, you can't fire federal workers. Well, we have to.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got everybody. I mean, every business and every government agency has to understand this. And look, it's amazing how DC works, because if you and I were here and back in 2010 and seeing the clips that are now resurfacing again from Schumer, Pelosi, and others, and Sanders, you would think they were the original Doge team back in 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the difference: Donald Trump says it and we do it. They say it and never mean it. It sounds good, but they don't do it.
I think there's a lot of fear that goes along with actually implementing a cut or a firing. And you said something in your last couple minutes ago that I found interesting. Some of the job titles don't describe what people are actually doing. Yeah. It sounds to me a lot like when you pass a bill that says, this is the Inflation Reduction Act, and it doesn't do that at all. In fact, it does the opposite. So I am not surprised that someone might have a job that really doesn't. Maybe they're just. It seems to me that the last administration created a lot of jobs. Now, I have great sympathy for anyone who loses a job, but it cannot. So what the newspapers are doing, and when I started Googling last night and doing some research, they're finding these really sympathetic characters, right, to focus on. One or two people to demonstrate how sad this is, how cruel this is, whatever. But that's an unfair representation. What would you say to people who read those articles and think, how could you possibly fire an Iraq war veteran who was helping with social work?
Yeah. Well, and again, it goes back into the situation of what they were actually doing and how it was actually working. And again, here, I have to say this, and for people listening to your podcast, if they were let go, they were in a position in which was not forward facing, even if they, you could do, I sort of call it the 7 steps removed from a veteran, but we were in that chain because we all are technically here. But their supervisor chose not to put an exemption in for them. Their chain of command chose not to put an exemption to keep them. So, look, we can talk about it all day long, but the processes were in place because we did, especially in veterans crisis line workers, staff workers who were in the back room who didn't answer phone calls, by the way. We have some senators who still, it just gets beyond comical when they just continue to repeat lines that just don't work.
Yeah.
But it's there. So what happened was so you've got to, there's sympathetic stories. Look, that's the hardest decision that we've made in my first 5 weeks here. Every one of those are hard to say, okay, yes, let's make this move. And, we've got some more changes coming, but we're doing so as we go. The biggest thing is anytime you see that, the press is putting it in headline stories. But also, Michelle, you've been around big media for a long time. I haven't seen the stories out of Southwest Airlines who're cutting 15% of their workforce, and they're saying, oh, well, they've cut veterans out of their workforce. They don't do those stories. CNN cut 6% out of CNN's workforce. Don't see any stories coming out of CNN about veterans being fired there. It's a double standard because we believe I am concerned with all veterans. They're only concerned with the ones seemingly that are on the government.
Yeah, I think it's a tremendous point. They're maybe overlooking the fact that you yourself are a veteran, you yourself have served, and of course you're going to be your mission critical, as you put it, is helping vets. I want to roll this now gone viral clip for anyone who hasn't seen it, because this is something I'm so glad you did this, Secretary, Mr. Secretary. I'm so glad you did this. I think that this is such a great demonstration of holding the press accountable. Uh, this is you with a reporter, and I lost my notes here. Remind me who this reporter is. She's with a military publication, correct?
Yeah, military.com. Patricia Kimes is her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, the press can be very careless, and they can say reportedly and maybe and might, and it's rumored or reports have surfaced. I love grilling food. I love it so much. I don't care what season it is. Winter is fine because I have a Solaire infrared grill from besthotgrill.com. You owe it to yourself to check out this product, and you can try it before you buy it. They've got this demo program. Solaire infrared grills heat up in 3 minutes. 3, I'm telling you. And it gets hotter than any other kind of grill. And so it applies direct heat to your food. It's not just the heated air around your food. And that means you're going to have the juiciest tasting food you've ever had off of a grill. I love this thing. I think everyone should have at least the little portable one. The Solaire infrared grills are available at besthotgrill.com, besthotgrill.com. And I'm telling you, try the demo program. Just give it a try. See if you like it before you buy it. Don't be left out in the cold. Learn more about these USA-made Solaire infrared grills at besthotgrill.com, besthotgrill.com. The press can be very careless, and they can say reportedly and maybe and might, and it's rumored or reports have surfaced, and blare those things as if they're fact or that they're going to happen, which has always been a bugaboo of mine. Let's roll this tape, John, and let people decide for themselves.
But I do have a second thing, Patricia, I really need to know. One of the things that I've been finding, we got into it a little bit in the discussion, but one of the issues that we're having is, and it's something here, I need your help on something. I need your help because all I seem to be doing lately is fighting back against innuendo and rumor stories. And this is what I seem to be fighting about all the time. In fact, Patricia, part of it is with you.
I'm sure.
And I just need your help because when you start headlines with, there's a rumor going around and that we've heard that hurts my veterans. That scares my veterans. That scares my employees because it's not true. Will you commit to not doing that in the future?
Well, there was a DOJ representative that day.
I have a VA employee who is our DOJ liaison. You knew that and you could ask that question.
I did ask that
question.
But
when you got the answer. But my question here is, I need you to commit to not starting off. Rumors began circulating.
I mean,
well, if it's either true or false, Patricia, and then you go to Patty Murphy, saying that we've heard and we have DOJ may have barged into the VA today. Unconfirmed hearsay. You know what you'd have done if I was a member of Congress and probably done that? Unconfirmed report. But you didn't put unconfirmed report.
Right.
So, Patricia, I want to work together with you.
Okay.
But I need you to commit to me that you're not going to do this.
I'm working on it, and I have been oh, actually, I have another question based on that. Thank you very much.
No, I want to hear the answer first. Are you committing not to do rumors? Because you're scaring my VA employees about this.
That's fair.
And you're scaring my veterans.
Yeah,
That's unforgivable. That's not something I take lightly.
But if a rumor is different than if I have a source,
then you source it to our PR people and let them know. Because you know something, I've got people who are reporting stuff right now who aren't even calling us. They don't even get something from. They don't even call us to check it.
Well, that's not right.
Well, this isn't right either.
Okay. Well, that's fair. But I did call about that.
Good.
I did call about
and you got the answer, but yet you still report it as a rumor.
Well, I didn't.
Okay. Which is it? Which is it? Is it a rumor or is you get confirmed?
Was that there is a DOJ person there.
There is. Okay. Nobody has said that from you. Nobody. Okay. We answered it, but it was reported as a rumor. I mean, think about this.
Issue with parsing out my stuff,
in the headline of the story, Elon Musk. Hey, I don't care who wrote it.
I know.
But your byline.
I'm starting to push back on those, and I
okay. But you think about what it says here. Elon Musk aide is now working at VA accessing computer systems. Ooh. And I mean, that's
Well,
all in
that's
this.
a true statement.
No, I mean, it is, because you know what? We don't make them. We don't make a Doge employee, which is funny because they're VA employees, a liaison. We don't also give them a.
I was not told that.
We don't give.
I was not told
But
it
you
was
wrote
a
the
Doge
article.
liaison. It
You wrote
told
the
there
article.
was a Doge employee, one Doge employee.
As we look at this, Patricia, I want you to know something. When you look at this headline and you're accessing computer systems, I want to work with you a lot as we go forward. We're going to have a lot of time together.
That's fair.
But I'm not going to have any reporter scaring my employees and scaring the veterans. And that's what this is doing. Let's get it right. I'm the most transparent VA secretary we've had yet. I'm on video. I'm on interviews. I do everything I possibly can to push back against everything I'm hearing. So we got a team that will help you, but I need your commitment to help me too. Okay?
I just absolutely love that. As you rewatch that, can you sort of tell us what you were sensing from her and how her feedback was physically, verbally, in a way that you could only sense because you were sitting across from her?
Yeah, very. Yeah, look, Patricia's it's a reporter who has to answer questions now, and they don't like that. And the problem is if you heard her when I said, and part of the problem is you, the first thing she said was, "I'm sure."
Yeah.
I mean, she admitted, up front. And then the arguments, as you just noticed, she just quit trying to give an excuse because there's not an excuse for it. Right. But the biggest point I want people who hear this and to take away from it is and I truly mean this. I don't allow them to scare my employees or my veterans. That's beyond the pale. We don't go there. You can talk about me all day long. You can say I'm the dumbest person ever, come across the face of the earth. You can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. You can tell me my ideas are bad, but you don't scare the ones who serve this country. You don't scare the just thousands of VA employees that are amazing job every day that I get to read about and I get to see about. I'm not going to let you scare them for political points. I'm not going to let you scare them because you don't like Donald Trump. I'm not going to let you scare them because you don't like the Doge. I don't care. I'm not going to let you scare them because you think it's politically viable. And I think that's the part right there that they're so used to. Whatever happened to journalism school in 3 sources? I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. So now, and literally, for those who may be saying, "Well, Doug, you were rough or mean," it was literally in the paper that I handed her, the quotes from her article, where the headline and the statements were, "Rumor has it." I mean, I thought I was reading. This would have been National Enquirer kind of stuff.
I don't think you were mean at all. I thought you were actually as friendly as you could possibly have been with her while making the point. Now, female reporters can handle this too. So if you're thinking that he was mean because she's a woman, stop it. That, I thought we wanted equal access, equal treatment, equal everything. So he's going to talk to her the same way he would talk to any male counterpart. And so don't think of this as, got to protect that's not the way things work here in 2025.
Yeah. All thing I do is look at my social media. Look, I've called out senators, both male and female. When you're lying, you're lying. Yeah. I'm not going to put up with it.
I love that. And, obviously you spent some time in Congress, how much bloat there is in the government. And frankly, it's been, we've been watching this for decades get worse and worse, and the national debt get worse and worse. How would you explain to people, as a veteran, as a former congressman, as a very well-educated lawyer, all of the things that you are, Secretary, how this is a national security threat, how this kind of bloat and national debt is a threat to all of us? Yeah,
it's pretty simple. We're paying more interest than we pay in the defense. We're paying more in interest on our debt than we are right now on our defense spending. So it's only going up. So if you have an economy that crashes or an economy that gets worse, which Donald Trump is now pushing back on the economy we had and making it better. But if it didn't, if those interest rates go up, then it causes it even more. So that all these issues of paying, and I think you and I have talked about this before, everybody focuses on the 8 cents or 7 cents. If you broke it down into a dollar bill, that's how much discretionary spending that Congress fights about. Well, we're making a difference here. And I'll go back to one of our earlier questions. And we talked about personnel, but I'm talking about contracts for a second. The contract stuff that we did, which we found over $980 million up front right now to cut over almost $1.8 billion in long-term stuff that may have already been spent, but they're not going to go forward. but let me give you a little secret. That's less than 2% of the contracts at the VA. Less than 2%. Okay, and that's what we found right there. So we got a lot of other stuff to look at here. But from what I'm saying is we're already looking right now to transfer some of that money into frontline work in our healthcare and our veterans, so that we're taking money that was being wasted on PowerPoints and meeting notes and putting it toward construction projects, other things that we can actually do right now that help our veterans. So again, I don't take this argument. It's funny to me. We got members of Congress right now that want to have a bill saying you can't fire anybody, you got to hire everybody back, and on the same time having also a bill this makes it easier to fire bad employees. You can't do both in the same hand. That's called political pandering, basically.
Yeah, it's really frustrating for those of us that try to keep a budget, and anyone who runs a business knows they have to, keep a budget. I want to read you something else from the American Prospect, which is a publication. It says, per usual in the second coming of Trump, the reality is quite different while changing day by day. A day after Secretary Collins' initial announcement about these cuts, the VA paused the cuts and a week later said it would only cancel 585 contracts only that were, quote, non-mission critical and duplicative. And thanks to reporting in the Prospect and congressional blowback, the VA has put a 3-month moratorium on the firing of researchers on renewable appointments and also rescinded the decision to eliminate without compensation appointments. We're sitting here on March 13th, so it's, again, early in the year, but there is no time to waste.
No.
I think that's one thing this administration really gets. These 4 years are going to fly. Where do you stand? What do you want to do? What can be accomplished while not hurting veterans?
Yeah, well, number one, I'm glad that American Prospect has I hope their arm isn't hurting from patting themselves on the back for basically also reporting that really wasn't that true. They saw a leaked list in pre-decisional form of contracts that were out there that were going through the process.
Who leaked the list?
We got people. I mean, it's amazing where leaks come from. But I will say this: we are addressing that. That's another issue that we are addressing. So, but it came out, and also they leaked the memo about the RIF, which is a reduction in force, which is for all of government, not just VA. That got leaked as well. So, but look, so it's hard to say that they helped us rescind something that wasn't finalized yet. Yeah. So it's like, okay, pat yourself on the back all you want, but you wasn't a part of it. I mean, you wasn't invited to the prom. So, I'm glad you got a corsage for nothing. But whatever. But it's just this is the kind of stuff that we look at, and the researchers is an interesting issue that again we were pre-decisional trying to figure this out to start with, because we have a lot of researchers that have different time frames, different contracts, different stuff that's going on. Also monies from NIH and other things that are going into this. So again, I just made the decision. Look, we're trying too hard to make this in a sense of work, because also the minute we get to a decision point, also somebody will say, oh, but wait, well, you've had 2 weeks here. Why are we waiting now? So we're seeing a lot of that as we go on, but we're getting there. So I just said, let's put it on hold for 90 days. Let's just put it on hold for 90 days. And, that's not a backwards move for me. It's actually what I'm not accused of, and that is being deliberate in processing these things so that we make as few mistakes as we possibly can. Michelle, we're always going to have issues that we're not going to do it right. But it's amazing to me. I've walked in here, and to hear some of our critics over the last few weeks, you would think that the VA was perfect before we got here. I mean, yeah.
I'm so glad you put it in those terms, because now everything's suddenly, it was perfect before Trump. USAID was virtuous and perfect. The IRS is perfect the way it is. The federal government is perfect with all of its blow. Don't touch a thing. How could you possibly fire a federal worker? People get fired in every industry every single day. Why is there this sudden... I don't think it's like a national fervor. I think it's in the press. I think it's in the mainstream media. This, oh my gosh, how could we possibly do this to these people?
Right.
All right. Everyone talks about sleep. How'd you sleep last night? How are you sleeping these days? You get a good night's sleep? I can always say, yes, I got a good night's sleep, thanks to sleep cream. Okay, this isn't a drug. It's not a prescription. It's a topical cream that you apply to your skin at bedtime. And believe me, when this was first brought to my attention, I was like, how is this going to work? They said, just try it. So I did. I tried it for a couple nights and I was amazed that once I put this on with its pure natural CBD and its wonderful essences, so it smells really good and it kind of has an aromatherapy effect too, I was relaxed and I could sleep. So all natural CBD combined with the finest essential oils. I put it on the insides of my forearms, maybe the bottoms of my feet, and within minutes, I can sleep. You can find them at sleepcream.com, sleep, CREME.com. You can find that in our show notes. Just try it for a couple nights. See if it works for you. And you know what? If it doesn't, they will give you your money back. No questions asked. That is a guarantee, and you don't even have to send the product back. Go to sleepcream.com, sleep, CREME.com. For the next few weeks, use the code GameDay at checkout. All one term, GameDay. Hey, it's game day for sleep. And you will get free standard shipping on your first order. GameDay at checkout. Sleepcream.com, sleep, CREME.com. It's guaranteed or your money back. Sleep, CREME.com.
Yeah, it is amazing, and inside this little 10-mile circle up here called the Beltway, it's look. And I'm not belittling anything. I've been a part of government, in and out of government now for a long time. A member of Congress. I was on the state legislator side. Every person, and I'm just going to go back for those who are seeing, whatever they want to see about me. I'm okay. I'm pretty comfortable with who I am.
Yes,
but my faith and my background, I empathize and hurt with people, but also things that have to be done for the bigger purpose and of good. And the VA is not about the VA. The VA is about a veteran. If we didn't have veterans, the VA wouldn't exist. So why are we spending so many times focused on the things that we like at the VA, and are they actually getting stuff done? I'm going to give you a prime example, and this one is very close to me. And we've talked about it, I think, even before on a couple of our times together. Veteran suicide. We've had, over the past 6 years, basically roughly the same amount of money, about $3 billion a year being spent toward prevention, about $588 million, about $2.3 billion on care and treatment. And we're still having roughly the same number, if not maybe even an increase in our suicide rate, death by suicide among veterans. Michele, I've been started asking questions, and I've started throwing out everything, and I'm saying, you can't bring me, we've always done it this way before. You can't tell me we're going to put 4 layers of this and it's going to make it better. I'm tired of us tracking where these veterans are dying. I want somebody holding the hand of a veteran and talking to them, because over 50% of those veterans are not having contact with the VA before they take their own life. I will not, and I repeat, will not accept that we're spending money that's working. 50% losing of, 17 to 22, whatever number you want to use, and 50% of those are not being touched by us. We've got to do a better job. That's on us. And money obviously here is not the issue. We've got tons of money here, but we're not reaching the people. That's why I'm doing your podcast. That's why I'm going and doing other podcasts. That's why I'm going to go to events where people just like President Trump, who went to other people who never really brought into a political system, who bought into a vision that America could get better again. And so I'm not, and so if I make people upset within the VA that I'm questioning, or contractors who are working on suicide issues for the VA, and I question what they're doing, I don't question their want to, I question the results. And I want to know, can we do it better? So these are the kind of things that we're going to continue to push forward on, because we can't accept, this is not acceptable anymore.
Right. It's like seeing the nation's report card and saying the Department of Education is perfect the way it is. It is not.
It's amazing. 5 weeks ago, you'd have thought that the VA was perfect. And here's another one for you. As you say this, there's some people right now being reported. I'm sure you saw it in your lookup as you was doing some research for this. I've had my surgery canceled. I've had this, but it was all because, again, okay, you've had surgeries canceled. Let me hear you clearly. You've had surgeries canceled because 0.5% of people who do not take care of patients were let go, and contracts that had nothing to do with surgeries or anything else to let go. Here's the thing. That story would have never made headlines on January 5th. Right. It would have never made headlines on December 15th. It's making headlines now because people are uncomfortable when they actually deal with the reality that the GAO, as it said, has said we're high risk. That means that we got to do better. Our hospitals are getting better, but we still have inaccuracies and stuff that need to be worked on, so that we have people get the stuff they need. To blame me. If it makes you feel better, blame me. But you know what? You can still be just as wrong and blame me, because that's the changes have been taking place to help our veterans, and nothing we've done so far, especially in the 2 or 3 weeks, some of these things have gone to you not being able to get a surgery or appointment or anything else. Again, it's almost like the VA all of a sudden was a perfect agency and now it's not. And that's just true.
We know it wasn't. We heard way too many complaints about it for decades past. I think you're the perfect guy for this job. Mr. Secretary, tell us how you got the call and the offer to take this position.
It was great. I mean, of course, I've known the president for a long time now. Of course, back in Congress when we had to go through all the stuff with impeachment, he and I have gotten to know each other well over the last 10 years or so. And we just was seeing each other as going through it, and you and I talked about the campaign, and I'd be at campaign events and we'd work. And it was just develop a conversation in which he said, he basically said, I want you to be with me. I want you to come to D.C. And I said, Mr. President, whatever you want to do, we win this election, we'll talk about whatever you want to. And then it just sort of developed there. And there were some ideas passed around. I went to him, and then it became the VA was the best place for me to be with my background and everything. And I'll never forget sitting at the table after he said, we want you to do this. And I said, Mr. President, what do you want me to do? And he simply looked at me and he said, Doug, just take care of my veterans.
For people who think that he's scary and evil and hates citizens and only loves billionaires, when he says, I want you to take care of my veterans, when he says, I want people to stop dying in these wars, how would you explain to people why you believe in him?
Because I actually look at what he does. I mean, think about this. Let's go to VA. Let's just use VA. In his 4 years, we implemented the Mission Act, which was a continuation of choice, which allows veterans to go into the community to get care if they couldn't get, or they have the choice. Isn't that a unique concept that if they couldn't get to the VA, they could go to their own doctors? We have a generation, my generation of veteran, the GWAT generation, this Iraq, Afghanistan veteran, that is younger, not affiliated with groups. We don't join, Michelle, you and I are similar. We don't join a lot of the Rotaries, especially younger. Our kids down low, they don't join Rotary and Kiwanis and stuff. They also don't join VSOs a lot. Our veteran service organizations like American Legion, American Legion, Veterans Foreign War, those others. But they do get involved in projects. They do get involved in things that are nonprofits where they see it making a difference. And from his perspective, and what I see is we've got to do that choice aspect so that we can let our veterans get the care they need. We're not privatizing VA, which, by the way, is the lie that's out there all the time. Doug just wants to privatize VA. No, there'll always be a VA for the VA health system and for the veteran who's earned the benefit. We're just not, I couldn't do that if I wanted to. So, which I don't. So it's crazy. So when you see him actually take that act and put it into law, when he talks about community care, he cares about it. When he passed the Accountability Act and he signed it into law where we actually fire people that have done bad things to my veterans, that was something. And then, of course, the first thing that happened was the unions and others sued. You can't get rid of people for doing bad things. Well, why not? We do it everywhere else. And now we have a bill. I kid you not, Michelle, I can't make this up. It's 2.5 weeks ago, the House they've reintroduced a version of the Accountability Act so that we corrected what people perceived was a problem in the bill. They're working so that we can actually fire bad employees. Do you realize that you had folks on the Hill, Democrats on the Hill, who are going to make amendments to exempt police officers, to exempt veterans, to exempt others from this line, that they couldn't be fired? So really what they're saying, let me cut through the noise. What these members of Congress, by passing these amendments and trying to frame Republicans as being against veterans and against police officers. So what they were trying to say was, I can't fire a police officer who does something wrong to a veteran or to somebody in the hospital. I can't fire a doctor who, like we've had in previous, or a nurse who is drunk in an OR. You can't make this up. But they were actually wanting to do these sort of gotcha amendments, but yet they wouldn't explain, if we pass this amendment, that means that police officers could do whatever they wanted to do to anybody, and I can't fire them because of it. And this, look, and even Republicans were sort of getting scared about this. And I said, are you willing to stand on the side of a bad employee who does bad things to people that they work to or the patients, and not willing to let them be fired? I just don't understand that, but that's how crazy it gets in a political situation up here.
Godspeed, Secretary Doug Collins, Secretary of the VA. I'm so glad to know you. So glad and proud to call you a friend. And I wish you. I love that you just you're willing to take the slings and arrows and let them fly. But you're going to do what's right. Thanks so much for joining us,
Michelle. It's always good to be with you.
Like Doug Collins, be brave, do good, and we will see you next time.